Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked at a successful woman and thought, how does she do it? Is it luck? Is it timing? Is it being in the right room at the right time? Here's the truth. Success often comes down to a few specific habits. And what's even more surprising, most people ignore them. Today, I'm going to reveal 3 habits that 90% of successful women practice. Let me tell you something that may sting a little. Most people are exhausted, burned out, and anxious, not because they're doing too little, but because they're doing too much of the wrong thing. We live in an age that glorifies hustle. You're told to be everywhere, say yes to everything, take every opportunity, chase every trend, answer every message, show up to every event. But when you look at truly successful women, the ones who are bearing fruit that lasts, who have peace and purpose and clarity, you'll see something drastically different. They have learned the art of ruthless prioritization. And I say ruthless, not in a cruel or careless way, but because they have had to cut off the things that don't lead to what they are called to do. They aren't driven by noise, they're driven by conviction. Most people think success comes from doing more, but success, real success, comes from doing what matters and doing it with focus. Successful women aren't afraid to say no. They're not paralyzed by the fear of missing out. They don't try to be in 10 different lanes at once. They know the cost of divided focus. They understand that time is limited and energy is not infinite. They know that if they give themselves to everything, they'll be truly effective at nothing. But here's what's even more important. They understand that saying yes to the right thing often requires saying no to good things. And this is where most people miss it, because it's easy to say no to distractions. It's easy to say no to obviously wasteful things. But the real test of prioritization is when you have to say no to something that seems noble, helpful, or even urgent, so you can say yes to what's essential. This kind of clarity doesn't come from the world. It comes from knowing who you are, why you're here, and what you're called to do. That kind of focus can't be built on ambition alone. It must be rooted in conviction. And conviction doesn't come from scrolling endlessly or chasing applause. It comes from stillness. It comes from wisdom. It comes from the quiet voice of God guiding you, not to do more, but to do what He has assigned to you. Most people never find that place because they're too busy running after everything that looks shiny. They think the next opportunity will fix the emptiness. They think that being busy means they're important. But I say this with love. Being busy doesn't mean you're fruitful. Being exhausted doesn't mean you're faithful. God never called you to burn out. He called you to bear fruit. And fruit doesn't grow through frantic effort. It grows through rooted obedience. Successful women don't just check boxes. They protect their calling. They guard their calendars, not because they're selfish, but because they know their purpose is sacred. They know that if they spend all their time reacting to everyone else's expectations, they'll miss the very thing they were created to do. Let me tell you something. If the enemy can't destroy you, he'll distract you. And the most effective way he does it is not through sin that looks ugly. It's through good things that aren't your things, opportunities that aren't your assignment, success in areas God never called you to. And if you're not careful, you'll climb the ladder of achievement only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. I've seen women wear themselves out trying to live up to every demand, every expectation. They volunteer for everything. They chase every trend. They try to meet every but they're tired, they're resentful, and deep down they feel lost. That's not what success looks like. That's what slavery looks like. You were never meant to live under the tyranny of should. You were meant to walk in the freedom of call. When you prioritize based on calling, everything shifts. You don't compare your journey to someone else's. You don't panic when someone is doing more or moving faster, because you know you're in your lane. You're moving in obedience, and that kind of focus breeds peace, not pressure. Some people hear this and think it sounds cold. They think, well, I don't want to let people down. But you need to know, every time you say yes to something God didn't assign you, you're saying no to something He did. That's not compassion. That's compromise. Sometimes love says, sometimes wisdom withdraws. Sometimes obedience looks like stepping away from good things so you can give your full strength to the right things. You cannot serve everyone. You are not called to fix everything, but you are responsible to steward the assignment God gave. And that starts with what you say yes to and what you're willing to say no to. You'll never be able to silence every opinion. There will always be someone who thinks you should be doing more, showing up more, giving more. But when you start prioritizing with clarity, you stop letting guilt drive you. You stop living for applause and start living for alignment. Alignment with your values, alignment with your season, alignment with the mission you were created for. Listen to me if you want to go deep. You cannot go wide. You cannot do deep, meaningful work while trying to keep up with everyone else's pace. You have to slow down. You have to get quiet. You have to ask the hard questions. Why am I doing this? Who am I trying to impress? What is this costing me? Is this moving me toward the life I'm called to build or away from it? Don't be fooled by the pace of the world. The world will celebrate your hustle all the way to your burnout, but God is not impressed by how much you can. He's not counting your busyness as faithfulness. He's looking for women who are faithful with what He actually gave them, not what they borrowed from someone else's lane. So if you want to walk the path of true success, start here. Don't ask what you can add to your life. Ask what needs to be cut, what needs to be surrendered, what needs to be left behind, so you can run your race with clarity and power. This world doesn't need more exhausted women. It needs more women who are focused, rooted, and walking in the authority of obedience. That's why this habit matters, because it's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most, and doing it well. You see, we live in a world that's constantly pushing us outward. Do more, get more, show more, share more. It's about public effort, public praise, public results. But success, real, meaningful, enduring success, is birthed in private. It is forged in moments of quiet discipline, invisible choices, and consistent learning when no one else sees. That's what separates the ones who shine for a moment from the ones who last for a lifetime. The women who rise and stay there are not the ones with the perfect resume or the flawless background. They are the ones who have made a decision to grow no matter what. They have decided that the greatest investment they can make is not in a brand, not in a platform, not in a network, but in themselves. And I'm not talking about self-centeredness. I'm talking about stewardship. They understand that they cannot give what they do not have. They cannot pour out what hasn't been poured in. They cannot lead with strength if their roots are shallow. And so they dig deep. They read, they study, they listen, they ask hard questions. They surround themselves with people who will challenge their thinking, sharpen their vision, and tell them the truth when it's uncomfortable. Most people will never do this. Do you know why? Because it's hard. It requires humility. It means admitting that you don't know everything. It means starting from the bottom again and again. It means letting go of pride and saying, I need help. I need to grow. I need to learn. That's a narrow road and few choose it, but those who do find something that the world cannot take from them. Too many people are chasing platforms, but they have no depth. They're loud, but they're empty. They speak confidently, but they haven't done the work. That's not strength. That's noise. And eventually noise collapses under pressure. But women who have taken the time to invest in their growth, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, they are immovable. They are not easily shaken. They don't crumble in the face of resistance, because their strength doesn't come from applause. It comes from within. This kind of strength isn't built overnight. It's built in the hidden places. It's built when everyone else is scrolling and they're reading, when everyone else is resting on what they already know, they're pressing in to know more. When everyone else is playing the comparison game, they're looking inward and asking, where can I grow? Where do I need to be stretched? Where am I falling short? It's not glamorous. You won't get a standing ovation for taking a course or reading a book on leadership or asking a mentor to correct you, but you will grow, and that growth will compound. Over time, it will turn into clarity. It will turn into discernment. It will turn into a quiet authority that can't be faked. You see, real success requires capacity, and capacity is expanded through investment. You cannot carry more if you don't prepare for more. You can't step into greater responsibility if you haven't built the inner strength to sustain it. That's why some women rise quickly but fall just as fast. They stepped into something their character wasn't ready for. But the women who last are the ones who have let the slow work of growth prepare them for what's ahead. And I need to say this too. Investing in yourself is not it's obedience. Because you are a vessel, and if you neglect the vessel, if you let it crack, if you let it grow dull, you will not be able to fulfill the purpose you were created for. And I'm not just talking about reading self-help books or going to conferences, though those things can be good. I'm talking about the kind of investment that forms you, that transforms you, that brings you into greater alignment with truth. It may mean counseling, it may mean accountability, it may mean studying topics that intimidate you. It may mean learning how to manage finances, or how to lead with integrity, or how to rest well. It may mean learning how to speak up, how to say no, how to deal with fear or imposter syndrome. Whatever it is, the point is that you are willing to grow, that you are willing to take your calling seriously enough to prepare for it, that you are willing to steward your life in a way that says, I'm not here to play small, I'm here to be faithful. And let me tell you something, that kind of woman is dangerous in the best. She is not easily manipulated. She is not tossed by the opinions of others. She is not distracted by every opportunity that comes her way, because she knows who she is becoming and she has done the work to get there. She is not led by insecurity. She is led by conviction. And that makes her unstoppable. But most people will never become that woman because they want comfort more than growth. They want validation more than transformation. They want the image of success without the sacrifice it takes to build it. Don't be like most people. Choose the narrow road. Choose the slow, deep, meaningful process of growth. The truth is, God cannot bless who you're pretending to be. He blesses who you're becoming. And the process of becoming is slow, uncomfortable, and sometimes painful, but it is worth it, because what's formed in that process cannot be taken away. It's yours, it's real, and it will sustain you when everything else. So if you are serious about walking in your calling, about building something that lasts, about becoming a woman of strength, in wisdom and peace, then you must invest in yourself, not once, not occasionally, but relentlessly. We're told just believe in yourself. We're told to stand tall, speak loud, take up space. But what's the foundation of that confidence? Where is it rooted? Because if your confidence is built on hype, on image, on applause, then it's not confidence. It's a mask. And masks always fall. What I've seen over and over again in truly successful women, the kind of success that's quiet, stable, grounded, not just flashy and temporary, is that they don't chase confidence like a feeling. They don't wake up hoping it shows up like a guest. They build it. They build it like you build a wall, brick by brick, day by day, with intention and patience. And they don't just build any kind of confidence. They build strategic confidence. The kind that has weight, the kind that has substance, the kind that has weathered storm. That kind of confidence doesn't come from scrolling through motivational quotes. It comes from showing up when it's hard. It comes from learning something deeply and practicing it consistently. It comes from failing, getting back up, and walking forward with wisdom. It's built in the trenches, not on a stage. And this is where most people go wrong. They confuse confidence with bravado. They confuse noise with authority. They think if they talk big and look the part, they'll be fine. But then life hits, then pressure comes, then responsibility arrives, and suddenly all that surface level strength crumbles, because it wasn't confidence, it was performance. But the women who last, who thrive in leadership, who love with power, who serve with joy, who stand firm under pressure, those women have built something deeper. They don't pretend to know everything, but they walk with a quiet assurance that comes from knowing exactly what they've been called to do. And that's what real confidence is. It's not pride in yourself. It's clarity about your purpose. These women prepare. They don't wing it. They study. They ask questions. They're not afraid to look like beginners. And that's why they carry weight when they speak. That's why people lean in when they walk into a room, because they're not there to prove something. They're there to serve something greater than themselves. And let me be clear, confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. It's knowing that your emotions don't get to define your obedience. It's choosing action, even when you're trembling. It's standing on what you know, not what you feel. And that's why it has to be built with precision. Because if your confidence is only based on how you feel today, you'll be up one day and down the next. But if it's based on what you know to be true about your identity, about your calling, about your preparation, then nothing can shake. I've seen so many women wait around, hoping confidence will come before they act. They say, I'm not ready. I don't feel qualified. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough, not strong enough, not experienced enough. And so they stay silent. They shrink. They settle. But let me tell you, confidence doesn't come before you move. It comes because you move. You don't wait for it. You build it. And every time you take a small step, even if it's messy, even if it's clumsy, you lay another brick. You grow a little stronger. You begin to see yourself the way God sees you, not perfect but prepared. This is why strategic confidence matters, because you don't need to feel bold to be bold. You just need to know what you've been called to do and who called you to do it. That's where your authority comes from. Not from titles, not from status, but from alignment. When your life is aligned with your calling, confidence becomes a byproduct, not a performance. And I want to say something else. The people around you matter. Confidence doesn't grow in toxic environments. If you're constantly around people who diminish your worth, who mock your growth, who feed your insecurities, you'll suffocate. But if you place yourself in the right rooms, around women and men who call out your gifts, who speak life into your bones, who challenge your thinking, you'll grow. It may be uncomfortable at first. You may feel out of place, but growth never happens in comfort. You have to choose the environments that stretch you. Don't just look for cheerleaders. Look for builders. Look for people who won't just clap for your victories, but help you prepare for them, who won't just flatter you, but who will correct you. Because confidence that can't withstand correction isn't real, it's fragile. But when you've been refined, when you've been sharpened, you walk differently, not arrogantly, but anchored. And let me tell you, the world needs more anchored women, women who aren't trying to prove something, but who are living from truth, who are confident enough to admit when they're wrong, confident enough to let others shine, confident enough to sit in silence, knowing their worth doesn't come from noise, confident enough to serve behind the scenes when that's what the moment calls for, and confident enough to lead in public when the weight of responsibility rests on their shoulders. This kind of woman isn't swayed by trends. She's not looking sideways to see who's doing what. She's not obsessed with image. She's grounded, focused, clear, because her confidence is not for show, it's for service. It's not about getting credit, it's about being faithful. But you won't become that kind of woman by accident. You have to build it. You have to fight for it. You have to make choices every day that sharpen your thinking, humble your heart, and prepare your hands for the work ahead. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the fear to go away. Step forward. Speak when it's time to speak. Prepare like it matters, because it does. Take responsibility for what's in your hands and give it your best. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs women who are rude, women who are not just confident, but strategically confident, built on truth, grounded in purpose, unshaken by pressure, steady in the storm. You can be brilliant, you can be capable, you can be strategic and driven and full of potential, but if your life is out of order, if your priorities are misaligned, none of it will matter. You will run hard and you will run fast, but you'll be running in the wrong direction. And worse yet, you'll eventually run dry. There's a discipline that most ignore because it doesn't sparkle like public recognition and it doesn't shout like ambition, but it is the secret thread that runs through the lives of women who are truly successful, truly whole, truly anchored. They guard their priorities with a fierce and holy intentionality. And when I say priorities, I don't mean a cute to-do list or some neat little planner filled with motivational stickers. I mean the deep soul-level commitments that govern everything else, the kind that require courage to maintain, the kind that aren't always applauded but are always essential. These women understand something powerful. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Just because it's a good opportunity doesn't mean it's your assignment. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean it's aligned with your purpose. That kind of clarity comes from order. And order doesn't happen by accident. It's built through surrender, through discipline, and through deep alignment with your values. The women who carry impact and peace and wisdom, do you know what sets them apart? It's not just that they've learned to say yes to the right, it's that they've learned to say no to the wrong things. And that's not always easy. Sometimes saying no means disappointing people. Sometimes it means stepping away from visibility. Sometimes it means resting when others are grinding. But they've learned that protecting what matters most is not weakness, it's wisdom. Most people are pulled in every direction. They're reactive. They say yes to everything because they don't want to miss out or because they're afraid of being forgotten. They're constantly running, constantly performing, constantly exhausted. That's not success, that's slavery. And many are enslaved to the expectations of others, not even realizing it. But the women who have cultivated order in their lives, who've prioritized their families, their faith, their health, their purpose. They walk in peace. They're not perfect. They're not immune to chaos, but they don't live in chaos. They don't allow the world to dictate their values. They've chosen a better way. And let me make this personal, because I've seen this up close. I've watched women rise in influence and fall in silence, not because they lacked talent, but because they lost their center. They built something big, but neglected the foundation. They were successful in public, but empty in private, because the order of your life always tells the truth. You can't fake it forever. And when the pressure comes, when the trials hit, what's out of order will start to collapse. So how do you live a life of ordered priorities in a world that celebrates hustle over holiness? You begin by asking the right questions. What's eternal and what's temporary? What's essential and what's extra? What has God asked me to do? Not what looks good, not what pays the most, not what others expect, but what is mine to carry. And once you answer that, you build your life around it, you protect it, you make decisions, not just based on opportunity, but on alignment. That may mean stepping back from something you've always done, even if you're good at it. It may mean slowing down when the world is speeding up. It may mean disappointing people who don't understand your boundaries. But hear me, it's better to disappoint people than to disobey your purpose. There is so much pressure to be everything to everyone, to be available at all times, to respond to every message, show up to every event, say yes to every request. But you were not created to live fragmented. You were created to live focused, and focus requires boundaries, not walls, but boundaries, healthy, intentional lines that protect what matters most. And I need to say this clearly, your worth is not in how busy you are, your identity is not in your performance, your value is not in how many things you can juggle without dropping. Your worth was settled before you ever accomplished a single thing. So stop trying to prove yourself through exhaustion. That's not noble, that's dangerous. There's a lie that if you slow down you'll fall behind. But let me tell you the truth, when you slow down to realign, to rest, to reconnect with your priorities, you're not falling behind, you're getting ahead. Because when your life is ordered rightly, your impact becomes sharper, your presence becomes fuller, your energy becomes sustainable. You don't have to hustle for what grace has already made available, but order requires sacrifice. It requires you to lay down ego. It requires humility to admit when your life is off track. It requires the courage to say no to things that flatter your pride, but weaken your purpose. And it requires constant recalibration. Because the enemy of your soul is subtle. He doesn't need to get you to crash. He just needs to get you distracted, just busy enough, just overwhelmed enough, just disordered enough that you miss what matters most. And that's why guarding your priorities is not just a habit, it's spiritual warfare. It's a declaration that your time, your energy, your life will not be spent on things that don't matter. It's a declaration that your family, your faith, your purpose will not come second to the world's demand. It's a declaration that peace is not found in doing more but in doing what matters most and doing it well. So I ask you, what is out of order in your life right now? What have you been saying yes to out of fear, what have you been neglecting that you know in your spirit should be front and center? And what would it look like to reorder your life, not someday but now? It won't be easy, but it will be worth it, because when your life is aligned, you move with power. You don't just work hard, you work wise. You don't just show up, you show up whole. And that right there is what separates the scattered from the strategic, the exhausted from the impactful, the busy from the called. There's a habit, almost invisible to most, that undergirds the lives of women who walk in genuine, lasting success. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous. You won't find it trending on social media, and it won't come with applause or awards. Yet it is essential, foundational, and transformative. That habit is humility. Now, humility has been misunderstood in our culture. Many equate it with weakness, with low self-esteem, with being a doormat. But that's far from the truth. Real humility is the bedrock of strength. It's the soil in which wisdom grows. It's the secret weapon of those who endure, who lead well, who live fully. You see, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's the ability to step back from the noise of self-promotion and the endless cycle of comparison, and to see yourself clearly, flaws, gifts, potential and all. It's to recognize your limitations honestly and to embrace your need for growth and grace.
And when you cultivate this humility, it changes everything. The women who succeed not just in their careers but in their hearts, their families, their communities. They are women who walk humbly before God and man. They don't boast about their achievements because their worth is not tied to what they've done but to who they are created to be. They're quick to listen and slow to speak, understanding that wisdom often comes in quiet moments, in learning from others, in admitting when they don't have all the answers. Humility frees you from the exhausting trap of comparison. In a world obsessed with competition, with measuring yourself against others, humility allows you to focus on your own path. It lets you rejoice in others' successes without bitterness or envy, because you understand that your worth isn't lessened by someone else's rise. Instead, you recognize that we are made for community, for building each other up, not tearing each other down. And here's the truth, humility also invites correction. It makes you teachable. The most successful women I've observed are not those who cling stubbornly to their own ideas but those who embrace feedback, sometimes harsh, sometimes uncomfortable, as an opportunity to grow. They welcome mentors, accountability, and even constructive criticism because they know pride blinds, but humility opens eyes. This is crucial because the moment we think we have it all figured out, we stop growing. The moment we refuse correction, we begin to the moment we believe we're better than others, we isolate ourselves from the very community that could support and sustain us. Humility is the antidote to this isolation. Now, humility is not passive. It requires courage to say I was wrong, or I don't know, or I need help. It requires strength to put others' needs before your own agenda, to serve without expecting recognition, to lead without seeking control. And those who master humility are often the most influential because people sense their authenticity, their sincerity, their groundedness. But most people avoid humility because it feels vulnerable, it feels like surrender, it feels like losing control. But real humility is not about losing yourself, it's about finding yourself in a deeper truth. It's about rooting your identity not in your accomplishments or status, but in something far greater and more secure. Think about this, when pride is the foundation, every success is shaken. It depends on constant validation, constant winning, constant proving. But when humility is the foundation, success is stable because it rests on truth and grace. It doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It simply is. And humility also shapes how we handle failure, because failure comes to all of us. It's unavoidable. But the humble woman doesn't fear failure, doesn't run from it, doesn't hide it. Instead, she faces it honestly, learns from it, and moves forward with wisdom. Failure becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Pride would have us deny failure or pretend it didn't happen, but humility brings healing. Let me remind you, humility is also a form of obedience. It aligns us with a higher calling, a higher power. It acknowledges that we are not self-made, that we are part of a bigger story. And that acknowledgement keeps us grounded in the midst of success and challenges alike. So if you want to walk in lasting success, success that doesn't fade with the seasons, you must cultivate humility, not as an afterthought, not as a fallback, but as a daily discipline. Ask yourself, am I open to correction? Am I willing to serve without applause? Am I able to listen more than I speak? Am I willing to see myself clearly and honestly? Because those are the questions that lead to real growth. And remember, humility is not a weakness. It is the secret strength of the woman who leads with grace, who loves with depth, who lives with purpose. It is the quiet power that moves mountains without making noise.